Awesome, awesome. Hello, students. Welcome to one of the first Unreal recordings. Um, they're going to be quite short. I'm going to try to keep them short. And today, we're just going over a little more in-depth version of what we did on August 28 in class. So just setting up basic first-person locomotion for an eventual VR project. So right now, I'm in the Unreal project browser. And for you to get here, if you're on the school computers or your own personal computer, what you would do is, wait one sec, I don't think I can see my mouse. Okay, much better. You would hover over the search bar if you're on a Windows, which more than likely you are, and you can type in Unreal Engine. And if you're on the school computers, you should see like a little app icon that'll say the Unreal Engine. For me, it doesn't work on my computer, so I just go in via the Epic Games launcher, click on the Unreal Engine, and launch it from there. Both ways work. But once you get into here, what we did in class, I chose the blank project one. I'm actually going to choose first person this time. And I'm going to do the same steps. I'm just going to show you a little more fun stuff. Try to make these videos worth watching. So I'm going to click first person. Blueprints is fine. Normally I do C++, but I'll show you how to do more of that later. That's a fine location for me. And I'll call this DMS. Hit the mic. 439. Week01 Demo Recording. Name cannot be more than 20 characters. Well, that's good to know. Demo R. And I'm going to create. And when you do that, the project will create. It closed the window. And now it's spinning up, so I will join you back when it's done loading. Awesome. So now everything's loaded in, and as you can see, this is what a first-person template will look like. Instead of having like a, what is it called? Like a terrain mesh in the distance, we have this little place that we can walk around, these yellow pieces to show where we can like walk up on, or not really sure what this thing is, just a giant cylinder. Either way, if I hit the play button, unlike the blank template where you start off in like this fly around cam mode, I have hands and I can walk around, I can jump and do all the things you might expect of a first person controller. Nice. So we're going to do the same things that we did in class, just through this template. And you can see if you click on this template, they have like their own organization structure. So the characters folder, a first person folder, input, and level prototyping. Character is where like the actual mesh lives. First person is what we were doing in class. They have their level in here, which is a bit weird. But if you click on blueprints, you can see they have the first person character, the BP, game mode, and player controller. These are the three things to be made in class. And then if I click on inputs, then they have two different input maps, but they have an input map. And then you click on into actions, they have the actions that we also made in class. So we're going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to add in a few more fun features. So let's see, the first thing we did in class was make inputs. So I'm going to right click, create a new folder, just so I don't get them confused, and call this DMS439. You know what? That's fine. I can just call it that. And everything I do for the demo is going to live in a folder like this. So we're really just going to recreate what's already on the screen. So if I click into here, I right click. What we did in class is that we scrolled down to input, looked for input mapping context, and we created a new one. And I'm going to call this input mapping context, so IMC. What I'm doing now is just naming things. It doesn't really matter. It's just helpful for when I want to find it. Let's see, demo first person. So an input mapping context is kind of what's going to tell our game all the actions our player can do. So under mapping right here, if you click the plus button, it'll create a option for you to put in actions, which we will create now. I click the content drawer one more time. We have the input mapping context down here. If I right click, I can go to input and look for an input action. And this is the actual action. So I'm going to call this IA for input action and demo move. And again, these are just names. They can be whatever you want. I'm just trying to make them consistent. So this is going to be my move. I'm actually going to right click. Actually, no, didn't want to do that. Delete. I'm going to click demo move and press Control D on my keyboard, or Command D if you're on a Mac, to duplicate an action, and I'm going to rename it to some games will call this aim, some will call it look. I'm going to call it look. And essentially this one is going to control our like the way what the player is looking at. So if you're on a mouse and keyboard, the mouse controls where your head's moving. And I'm going to duplicate it one more time, Control D. Instead of look, I'm going to call this jump. For jumping. Okay, so now, right now, see we have the input mapping context open. I'm going to double click move. This will open up the move action. And move is normally on a 2D axis, so forward and back, left and right. So if I come down here to value type, scroll down under digital bool, click it, I want this to be a axis 2D or a vector 2D. So I want it to move in 2 dimensions, forward and back, left and right. Gonna save it, and we're gonna close. That's all we need to do for this. And then if I come back to my content drawer and look for my look, double click it, it'll open up the window. So I'm in IA demo look. This also needs to be a 2D vector because this is handling left and right and technically up and down. Cool. So that's all good. I'm going to close it. And by default, so we have jump. When you make an input action, it's a digital bool. Jump is a button click. So normally you hit like spacebar or something, you jump. That's just a digital bool. So that's fine. It's like, did you press it or not? So now that we're back in our input mapping context, which if it's not open, you can just come to your content drawer, double click, and it'll open up, but mine's already open. We now can mess around with the mapping context. So if I click none in this drop down that we created, which again, if you don't have anything in here already, click the little plus button and it'll create a little drop down. So if I click this drop down, it'll give me every input action that I have in my project. These ones down here, the ones that don't say demo, are the ones that already came in the project. So actually if we use these, they will work. But we're using the ones that we just created just to make sure, we can make ours work. So I'm going to look for demo move and I'm going to click it. Also, if you don't want to use the drop down, you can drag it. See the place I can drag things to highlighted blue, and I can drop it and it'll live in there. So if I hit the little twirl down, now we get to decide what actions or what buttons are going to perform this action. And to do that, you can click this little keyboard icon right here. It'll turn yellow. And then on your keyboard, you can type in the keys that you want. So I'm going to type in W, which is going to be my forward movement. Going to open up its little caret, look for modifiers, and under modifiers for forward movement, we have to add one modifier. So I click the little plus sign, and I'm looking for a swizzle input axis, which, as we can see, is useful to map one directional input onto the y-axis of a 2D action. And because movement is 2D, forward and back, left and right, X and basically like an X and Y graph, W, we're telling it is supposed to be, going forward in that direction. So that's why we need a swizzle. Why it's called that, I don't know. So if I add a second binding to this mapping, so right now we only have one mapping, but I added a second like key binding to it. So that's why there's two underneath of it. Because if we're controlling with keyboard or a controller, we have to, not with controller. If you're controlling with keyboard, you have to like set it for all the keys. So W's forward movement. So if I click this little keyboard icon again, I'm looking for S, which will be backward movement. And I will have to add another modifier. We're looking for swizzle. And because this is backwards, we have to negate it, or else it'll go forward. So if I add a second modifier, click down and looking for negate. So W should move forward, S should move back. And the reason why we're negating S is because forward vectors are kind of standard. Forward and right vectors, so those are kind of like the defaults, but what's the opposite of forward? Backwards and left vectors are just like the inverse of forward and right. So for A and S, they have to be negated. W and D are fine. So let's see. I have to add two more bindings. I'm gonna look for D, and I don't think I have to add anything for this one, but I'll double check in a second. And then I add one more for A. This one has to be negated, I'm pretty sure. The other reason why I wanted to do this inside the first person template is that if I am confused about what I'm doing, I can always look into the one that's already pre-built. Which normally, you would just use the pre-built stuff, but it's good to know why they work. And I can check to see that my modifiers are correct. So for W, we swizzle. For S, we swizzle and negate. For A, which is left, we just negate. And for D, we do nothing. So that's good. That's what we wanted. Okay, and now I'm back in my IMC demo first person one. So if I close down my demo move, or at least collapse it, I know it's all good. And this would just be for a keyboard. If I wanted to add something for a controller, like a thumbstick, I would add another input action map. I would click none, look for gamepad. That's what like a controller is. This is like a generic controller. Look for the left stick and look for left stick 2D axis. And for this, that's all you have to do because it's just it's a stick. It's already going to be moving in two directions on a 2D axis. And then for VR, if I add another binding, I can click none, look for Windows Mixed Reality, which should be a stand-in for like general VR, and look for Mixed Reality L, so the left-hand controller, thumbstick, 2D axis. Of course, we'll be using like the Oculus and HTC Vive and whatnot, so we can add in those explicit ones, but this should work just fine. And we're going to take a quick break here and continue on in a second.